Hi, my name is Constance Wade. I'll be your introduction to theater instructor this semester. I wanted to share just a little bit about myself and why I love theater so much. When I was about 9 years old, I directed my first neighborhood production with some neighborhood kids that I sort of drafted. I cast them and rehearsed them and gathered an audience and charged a dime admission. The show was my adaptation of Disney's Aristocats. I didn't know about copyright permissions at that time. But as my life continued, there were many things that I did as a kid. I did lots of puppet shows for family. I did some playwriting in some churches that I belonged to with youth groups. I did a variety of things until I did go to college when I was about 27 years old and a single parent of two children, a son and a daughter. I went to college. I was one of the first non-traditional students to go to college at that time. So this was 1987. So from 1987 to 1990, I studied theater and I also studied English. I was involved in 13 plays in 3 years, and my kids and I pretty much lived at the Fine Arts Building, and we have a lot of treasured memories of that time. I also at that time did my first play, even though I had written some short pieces in other contexts. This was the first time I actually did a more scholarly play, and it was something that was based in a very important event in my life at that time. So I got to do that, and I got to do some of my first directing there with college students. I earned my bachelor's there in theater and English, and I moved on to Murray State University. At Murray State, I studied organizational communication with an emphasis in theater. Now, that's kind of a mouthful, I know, but it was a wonderful and enriching experience. While I was there, I did work some with Playhouse in the Park. I completed an internship there, directed a small musical cabaret, which I adapted and put together myself. So from that point, I was completing my master's degree as I took my job at the college here at West Kentucky Community and Technical College. So that was 1991. At that time, I finished that first semester, I finished my master's degree and I started teaching. I'm now in my 29th year of teaching here and very happy to say so. It's a great place to work. I have directed many shows while I've been here. I can't even begin to list them all, but anything from contemporary plays, some original plays, some performance art pieces, which we'll be talking about later. I also directed many Shakespeare productions, other classics such as Tennessee Williams' Glass Menagerie. I mean, there's really quite a variety, and I've so enjoyed working with students and just watching them grow and create, and I enjoy creating them together. One thing about theater is you have such a tremendous sense of family while working on shows, and you really just can't wait until the next production. At this time, I am primarily working on my playwriting and also working on original plays, encouraging those in other students and seeing what other kinds of projects that we could be doing at this time. And I'll talk more about that later in the semester. Uh, some other things to say about me is I also did study at the Southern Illinois University in Carbondale. I worked on my PhD studies there and am a doctoral candidate. Unfortunately, I did kind of run into some major family and health obstacles at the time, and that's prevented me from being able to complete it, but it has been an enriching experience for me and has informed my teaching in so many ways, and I'm so glad to share my experiences with you, and I look forward to hearing about yours as well. Even if you don't have any direct experience in theater yet, we're going to mine your experiences and you're going to see how theater relates to you. So while I was at SIU, I studied primarily performance studies with an emphasis in playwriting. Playwriting is one of my goals to continue to work in playwriting and produce original plays, not only of my own, but in other people as well. So while I was there, I had a variety of plays that were produced there. I had three full-length plays, Some of those were an hour long. So there were 2 theater kind of judges by time, and sometimes by pages, but usually by time. So anyway, while I was there, I studied playwriting and other performance studies areas, but playwriting was my focus. And I also had a number of plays while I was there that I had performed by professional actors in theatrical readings, stage readings is what they're called. And that's a workshop type of approach to writing plays. Okay, and there's many different approaches. We'll read about some of those. So those are some of the things as far as academically what I've done, and kind of what I'm working towards and some of my goals at this time. I also share a little bit about my family and my background. I was, as I mentioned, I grew up in Connecticut until I was about 13 years old. But my parents were from Tennessee originally, and they went north for work when they were very young and first married. So they became quite kind of homesick and moved back to Tennessee. It was a culture shock. I'm not going to say it wasn't. I was about 13 in junior high. And although I had visited there, I really didn't think I fit in at first. However, what I discovered, and especially through my playwriting, is that the South was always with us. I was a Southerner in so many ways, not a New Englander, even though I still miss that. I miss the ocean. I miss the history that was there. However, I didn't realize the South was always with us. I guess I didn't think about the fact that not everybody had family that were playing banjos and mandolins and bluegrass music, and I didn't know. So I didn't realize the South was always with us. So in my playwriting, I discovered that I was a Southerner. My characters are deeply Southern, rural, and working class, and because that's my roots, that's where I come from. So I find that a beautiful experience to share, and part of creative writing of any kind is a discovery of self. So I hope that if you are a creative writer of any kind, or you have any other interests in various aspects of the theater, because theater is certainly a collaborative effort of all of the different art forms, I hope that you share those with me as we continue through our journey. A couple other things about me are I raised 2 grandchildren. I have done that since 2011, and they are now 13 and 14 years old, so I have my hands full just with that adolescent thing going on. And I also, they're very involved, so I'm also kind of carting them around. I'm a single grandparent, just as I was a single parent before. I'm a single parent grandparent, and so I stay pretty busy. That's kind of my hobby, is my grandkids, who I think of as more of my own children as well. They're involved in dance, basketball, all kinds of activities, go to competitions, that sort of thing. So I stay pretty busy with them. As far as my hobbies, they are my most cherished, endearing, and sometimes exhausting hobby. That's a little bit about me to start with. I look forward to sharing with you, and I want you to contact me, communicate with the class through our discussion boards. Let me get to know you too. Thanks. See you in class.